Hello everybody, my name is Steve Bradley. I am a certified divorce real estate expert. In today's video, Divorce in Real Estate, we're going to talk a little bit about how a judge's order inadvertently kept a spouse from being able to buy a property after the sale of the marital property. In this scenario, very often in any divorce situation, there's often alimony or child support that becomes part of this. And the spouse that's going to be receiving that alimony or child support, very often if they're going to buy a property, is going to rely on that income as part of the income to qualify for the loan. But there's some very specific ways that qualifies, and it's important, but the attorneys as well as the judge are not always in tune to that, or they may be well aware of it, but through a complex divorce, maybe something gets overlooked. And this is why it's very important that your real estate agent have a lot of experience. So in this situation, the alimony that the spouse was going to receive was going to start 30 days after the sale of the marital property. The problem is that particular spouse needed to go buy a home, and they needed to buy one to move into. So they wanted to leave the marital property and move into the new home. The challenge becomes the alimony starts too late for them. In order to use that alimony almost back to back to basically sell that home and purchase another home, that spouse needed to be receiving those alimony payments on record in their account for a solid 6 months prior to it being able to be used as qualified income to purchase the new home. And part of the reason we found in this scenario that the judge had done this was through a request from the out spouse that instead of paying alimony while the in spouse was in the house, they wanted to be able to pay the mortgage directly because they were worried it wasn't going to get paid and it was going to impact their credit. Well, and again, I'd like to remind people just before I move forward, I am not a real estate attorney. I am not a divorce attorney. So you always need to refer and follow your attorney's advice. But in this scenario, what would have worked best is if the money that the out spouse was paying was actually paid directly to the in spouse, so she was getting record of those payments into her account, and then the order requiring her to make the mortgage payment within X number of days or an immediate penalty of some sort. That way, for the 6 months prior to the sale, the in-spouse that's receiving the alimony payment is also getting recorded payments into her account, deposits, and then, assuming all things being equal, credit scores and everything else being there, that income can be qualified, and then that person would be able to purchase a home and potentially move right from the marital property into that new home 6 to 7 months later. And again, you want to use a certified divorce lending professional, and I know one exceptional one if anybody ever needs one that's watching this video, but you need to be able to manage that stuff up front. And in this situation, the order actually caused a conflict that required that the spouse that was leaving the property had to rent a place for, I think it was about 9 months in order to get those recorded payments and then to be able to go out and buy a property. One other factor about alimony that becomes an issue for lenders to qualify this spouse in this example is that they need to have 36 months of unaltered payments. And so what happens is if, let's just imagine that this person has a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old at the time of the divorce. The problem with that is the 16-year-old turns 18 in 2 years, so in 24 months, and then they drop off the alimony, and that changes the amount of the alimony payment. So that would also cause a challenge that if somebody wasn't paying attention and didn't address all that, or at least calculate that into everything that's going to happen, then that could have become another major issue, for the out spouse trying to buy a property. So it gets very complicated. But it's important that your real estate agent have a good overview so they can interact and at least ask questions and say, hey, has somebody addressed this? Has somebody questioned this scenario for you, whether it be your attorney or you're a lender or somebody else? Because after the fact, it's just too late. All right, I hope this information helps everybody. Again, my name is Steve Bradley. I'm a certified divorce real estate expert out here in Northern Virginia. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out at any time. My contact information is below.